Hi, Tatenda. What have you been up to?
Hello, Salam. I have been working on a training manual for ARASA to help organizations, human rights defenders, and communities understand bodily autonomy in the context of sexual and reproductive health and rights.
That sounds interesting. What is bodily autonomy, Tatenda?
Bodily autonomy is the freedom to make your own decisions in relation to your body. It is the right to exercise agency over your body, free from external interference, social or legal sanctions, violence, and discrimination.
That sounds a bit complex. Can you tell me more?
Of course, bodily autonomy is about agency. Think about the choice and freedom to decide whether or not to have children, with whom, and how many children to have.
Aha! More like how people can make decisions about their gender expression and identities and about their sexuality, including when, whether, with whom, and how to have sex and to feel pleasure.
That's correct, Salam. Bodily autonomy is the freedom to make decisions about your sexual and reproductive health too.
Isn't that the same thing as bodily integrity? I've heard people use bodily integrity too.
Good question. Bodily autonomy and bodily integrity are often used together, but they are different in meaning. Bodily integrity is the right to not have your body touched or physically interfered with without your consent. It is your right to security, your freedom from any form of violence. It also includes freedom from any humiliating treatment and the right to privacy. It refers to the right to be free from physical assaults, rape, violence, torture, medical or other experimentation, compelled eugenic or social sterilization, cruel or degrading treatment or punishment, forced HIV testing, sex assigning surgery for intersex children.
Right! Now I understand what both mean. But how do I know when my right to bodily autonomy is being violated?
It is when you are denied access to contraceptives and safe abortions. It also includes laws that criminalize same-sex relationships and any restrictions placed on your reproductive health.
What about bodily integrity? What are some of the violations that come with it?
Female genital mutilation, forced sterilization, sex assigning surgery for intersex infants. Back in 2013 in Namibia, the International Community of Women Living with HIV, Namibia Women's Health Network, and the Legal Assistance Center found a number of women living with HIV who were sterilized without their knowledge or informed consent. The women received limited or inaccurate information about sterilization, why it was important, and what options they had. They were not given counseling and were rushed to sign the documents, some while they were in labor. Some were even told it was standard practice for women with HIV.
No, but that is so wrong on so many levels. That must have been awful for the women in Namibia. This is a serious case of human rights violations.
Oh yes, forced sterilization is the violation of both bodily autonomy and bodily integrity, as it both negates women's ability to make decisions about their own bodies and also constitutes a physical interference with their bodies without their consent. It was, and it continues to be in other parts of the world. The enjoyment of bodily autonomy and bodily integrity is critical to the realization of the full range of human rights. Our bodies are the primary means through which we experience and participate in society. Without full control over our bodies, the full range of human rights for marginalized groups such as young women, sex workers, LGBTI, and people living with disabilities would not be enjoyed. Bodily autonomy and bodily integrity are at the core of our human rights. These include the rights to life, privacy, dignity, expression, health, security of the person, freedom from torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment, and freedom from discrimination.
This makes a lot of sense. But how does this connect to sexual and reproductive health rights, or SRHR?
Bodily autonomy and bodily integrity are at the cornerstones of sexual and reproductive health and rights. But first, let us start by explaining a little bit about what we mean by sexual and reproductive health.
Sexual and reproductive health means physical, emotional, mental, and social well-being in relation to all aspects of sexuality and reproduction.
That's it. Therefore, the best way to understand the relationship between bodily autonomy and bodily integrity is by simply remembering that, as with the right to health, the right to sexual and reproductive health entails both freedoms and entitlements. The freedoms include the right of individuals to make free and responsible decisions and choices concerning their bodies and their sexual and reproductive health.
This has been super informative, Tatenda. I read on the internet that the achievement of sexual and reproductive health relies on the realization of sexual and reproductive rights, which are based on the human rights of all individuals. Is that true?
Yes, that is true. Both autonomy and bodily integrity allow us to understand that issues concerning our bodies are connected, and therefore allows us to understand it from a political, legal, and social perspective. It also gives us a perspective in understanding the power dynamics around our bodies, especially gender equality. Achievement of sexual and reproductive health relies on the realization of sexual and reproductive rights, which are based on the human rights of all individuals to have their bodily integrity, privacy, and personal autonomy respected, freely define their own sexuality, including sexual orientation and gender identity and expression, decide whether and when to be sexually active, choose their sexual partners, have safe and pleasurable sexual experiences, decide whether, when, and whom to marry, decide whether, when, and by what means to have a child or children, and how many children to have access over their lifetimes to the information, resources, services, and support necessary to achieve all of the above, free from discrimination, coercion, exploitation, and violence.
Thank you so much for sharing this information with me. It was helpful. Where can I get more resources to share with community organizations that want to understand bodily autonomy, bodily integrity, and SRHR more?
You can visit the ARASA website, where they have a list of useful resources and links. This message was brought to you by the AIDS and Rights Alliance of Southern Africa. For more information, visit www.arasa.info.